to be honest, I get scared when I do these stories.
And that's what I wanted to know, how you stay motivated despite all the threats.
I am scared. I am sometimes worried about what could happen to me when we output these investigations. For me, but also for my team. But I'm encouraged by one thing: evidence.
Live with Simon Chris Makanga. If you are new here, go ahead and subscribe. Our special guest tonight is a Mount Award-winning investigative journalist, a former reporter and a news anchor who dropped down the tools and took on the other bigger responsibilities of a leader. He is the Executive Director of African Institute for Investigative Journalism, one I've always admired from a distance, and I'm greatly inspired by his incalculable hunt for truth and justice. Mr. Serwanjja Solomon.
Thank you so much for having me,
It's a big pleasure indeed.
I am humbled to be here.
Out of curiosity, every time I've called you on the phone, you've always addressed me, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm curious to understand, is that how you speak to everyone on the other side of the call?
It's just respect for someone to pick up their calls or their phones, to dial your number and want to talk to you. You should look at it as an opportunity.
Wow.
That someone is seeking, to either ask from you.
Something from you.
It's an opportunity and you don't take it for granted. You don't know who is on the other side of the call. So oftentimes when I am answering those calls, even when I am stressed,
you say, yes, sir.
I love to respect people on the other side. I've had people call me to, and out of respect, to just call you to investigate night dancers.
You're kidding.
Like all these crazy people. But then there's also calls that come in and, I think humility is important.
It's very key. Thank you so much. It's a big pleasure to have you on this conversation. And if you are new here, like I said, kindly go ahead and subscribe. Believe you me, we are going to have a great conversation. If you are a journalism student or anyone that has been inspired by Mr. Serwanjja Solomon, kindly join me as we sit on his feet and learn.
Thanks for having me.
It's
Chris.
a pleasure. How did you know that you're going to be an investigative journalist?
I'll tell you a very short story. I never thought that I wanted to do investigative journalism. Never.
How did you end up there?
Good question. I got into the newsroom, and I've done 15 years as a journalist. I've worked for UBC, for NTV, NBS, New Vision. I have written for the Daily Monitor. I have worked for KTN. I've done, some work for NTV Kenya. I have worked with the BBC. I have really had my time in journalism at both national, regional, and
international.
At international level. But to go back to your question, I never intended to do investigative journalism. I think my career as an investigative journalist started at NTV, where a woman walked to NTV and was crying that some white people came and they took her kid. So my editor at that time, William Scato, who I celebrate very much,
who went into retirement.
He recently, just about a week ago,
finished
his over 25 years career.
Great service.
That guy, I owe my journalism career to him. He mentored me, supported me. He helped me grow as a journalist. So I always give him his flowers when he can still smell them. So I celebrate him for mentoring many journalists like myself. And Williams just assigned me that role to listen to that lady. So I listened to this woman, old enough to be my mother. She was crying and said, they took my child. And as I told her, tell me about the story. So she told me there were some whites, they came to our village, they took my kid. He's now in the US. Curious to know, really, how did they happen? So I started to dig deeper.
Was it out of curiosity or it was out of anger?
I just kept searching, you know, and it became a rabbit hole. It's like I would keep seeking for more, you know, dig deeper, more than what you're telling me, you know, look people in the eye, go to the field, add A plus B, you know, and to get to the truth. So I realized that sometimes you have to get deeper and research more to understand the story and to get to the truth. Later on, how that story concluded was this lady who came crying was also part of the team that, I mean, they forged death certificates for their husband who was still alive. And when we published that story, it reignited conversations around legal guardianships and adoptions. And I remember the then chairperson of the Children's Committee in Parliament, Bernard Atiku, you know, invited me for a coffee and we talked and said, look, I watched your story. And out of that, they started amending the Children's Act to close that. And they pointed out that small gap that these people were using in the law, and the law was amended because of my story.
Wow, not only that, you've done a couple of investigative stories. And the most recent one that really sold you out to the world was Stealing from the Sick. That was run by BBC. You just told me that you recently watched your first investigative story. When you watch Stealing from the Sick, what comes into your mind?
Well, firstly, it's just fascinating the hard work of the producers and the journalists that I did the story with, who were able to go beyond just the rumors and the anecdotes around medicine being stolen to present evidence that this was happening. You know, investigative journalism is a very interesting genre of journalism. It's not about allegations. It's not about anything. It's about evidence. Every word that you say must be anchored in evidence. It's either paper trail, it's, you know, it's secret filming, video evidence, it's audio recordings, it's everything. Because you have to qualify every statement.
Are you traumatized when you watch it?
I am not, actually. When I look back and watch that story, I feel like I made a contribution. Me and my team that produced that documentary made a very big contribution to this, because after that story was aired, the president started a nationwide campaign on people who steal medicines. The State House Health Monitoring Unit did different operations. If you just go and look at what happened, it's becoming increasingly difficult for medical mafias to steal medicines. The national medical stores goes beyond just procuring medicines. They now follow the medicine to the last user. And I think they have come up with the latest technology to follow up with medicines. And that goes to underscore the importance of investigative journalism. That just one story which is well done, buttressed with evidence, can be able to spark a series of reactions that can stop or put an end to a certain vice. And that's why I'm really, really passionate about the power of investigative journalism in holding the powerful to account.
Do you
in
feel your
exposing
efforts
all
being
this.
appreciated?
There's several stories that I've done that I think, in my view, have been gratifying over my last 15 years career as an investigative journalist, that people get to know about these things, people debate these things, and people demand for change. I think our latest investigation is called The Ghosts of Untungamu, which was quite a big story that took quite a significant amount of time to do, where we really discovered ghost health centers in the first district and how we had ghost health workers being paid but never existed. That story alone has over 57,000 views. People are talking about it. And as a result, I know that the Ministry of Public Service is now doing physical verification of all medical workers in Intungamu and in other districts. When you see your work being appreciated with impact, you pat yourself on the back and the team for making that small, humble contribution to creating a society that we all want.
Don't you get any threats?
I subscribe to investigative journalism, which is more of watchdog journalism, where we go and expose the corrupt, where we expose human rights violations, where we expose the bad things that happen. And along the way, you certainly step on big toes. You shake tables with expensive drinks. And you annoy people.
Inevitably.
You annoy people, you expose people, there's times where they can even, threaten you and even want to pay for your blood. But what really for me is very significant in this kind of journalism is having evidence. You see, Simon, when someone has overwhelming evidence against you, your first reaction is not to kill them. Your first reaction is, can we talk?
Negotiation.
Yeah, it's negotiation.
Let's be honest, Mr. Serwanjja. Has anyone ever called you for a negotiation?
Negotiations, no. Because I try to put my story out.
Like no one has ever presented you an envelope.
I think I have been before, but during my earlier times as a young reporter, I have. And I think, there was a big bounty that came.
Did you take it?
No, I didn't. I think that was for the investigation I did at NTV on Taken and Never Returned. That story went viral and we did it. It was good. So usually, let me just go back and answer your question on stepping on big people's toes. As long as you have overwhelming evidence, people keep asking me, what keeps you going? How come you don't get scared? Or to be honest, I get scared when I do these stories.
And that's what I wanted to know, how you stay motivated despite all these threats.
I am scared. I am sometimes worried about what could happen to me when we output these investigations. For me, but also for my team. But I'm encouraged by one thing, evidence. You don't fight with evidence. You don't fight with facts. It's one thing alleging something that Simon did. And when I allege something
with facts,
without facts, your first thing is to come for my throat, because then you're saying I'm spoiling your name.
Your name, defamation.
I'm defaming you. But when I have facts against you, you have nothing to do about it, because there's paper trail, there's a secret recording video, there's all this evidence that is available. You can't fight with evidence. So when I am seen as chasing the truth and putting the truth out there, you just have to fight with the truth.
So how do you stay motivated?
Again, when you come into this field of investigative journalism, it's evidence. Evidence protects you. The truth protects you. I guess it's true when they say the truth sets you free. When you have the truth on someone, not just allegations, not just wanting to defame people, have the evidence, have the truth, put it out.
You know, what you're saying reminds me of an old saying, that the Hercules who attempted to kill the Hydra for the very first time, he despaired it when he realized that cutting off one head, two would grow in the same place. Wow. And then he said that killing a beast may not be possible if it only gets stronger by every wound that it receives.
Wow.
And there's also a similar...
That's a nice one.
Thank you. There's also a similar saying in our industry that there is no story that is worth your life.
Of course.
And
listen,
it's from that background that I want to know, as you're doing your investigative journalism, have you ever despaired a beast?
Listen, I have been arrested. I have been kidnapped. I have been abused. Online, I have gone through it. I think I've been there. The thing, though, about threats is before I do any story, we sit down and do what we call risk assessment. Sometimes as journalists, we are blindfolded by our passion to tell stories and forget about the potential risks
involved
that we get ourselves into. And so for all of us who are in the investigative journalism space, there's one thing that we need to take very seriously, and that is risk assessment. You have to look at the risk. Who are you chasing? What could be their comeback? What is plan A for your safety? What is plan B? What is plan C? Once you have mapped down all that and you have evaluated the risk and you're thinking, I am going to go in investigative journalism, you go out to either kill or be killed. You're hunting big. Make sure when you go hunting, you kill. Because otherwise, if you don't kill, you get killed.
Have you ever despaired a
So,
beast?
you have to know who am I taking on? Am I able to hunt this beast and put it down? And this is why it's important for you to laser focus on the beast you're going for. If it's this beast, please don't hunt several beasts at the same time. You don't know which one is going to take you down. When you say I'm going for this beast, first you evaluate, do I have the potential to actually take on this beast? Because this beast will fight back.
True.
But if you go down and say, this one, I am going to hunt and I'm going to kill.
So there is one you say, this one for sure, I must put it down.
You have to. When you go into such a battle, make sure you're going down, you're going to kill it. Let me give you a classic example, and globally. We have a guy called Anas Anas. He's called Anas Arimi or Anas. A celebrated investigative journalist in Ghana. He has taken on Ghana's judiciary. But you know what he has created differently? He has started a lawsuit that he does the investigations, and his lawsuits even take those people to court using evidence he has collected. So his motto is name, shame, and jail.
Name, shame, and jail.
That's it. So it ends with the jail. You have to take someone down. In Kenya, we have John Allen Namu, who is a celebrated investigative journalist. You go for it, put it down. You can't leave it hanging. You must secure. So you have to.
Wow. I did a little research. What I found out is that you always make vast decisions. And most of them you have never been disappointed. I looked at that, I'm like, wow. When time came for you to quit NTV, you didn't look back. Despite the fact that you were at your peak. You took a risk and made a vast decision for you to leave. Then you went and started building NBS. When you were at your peak, when most of us were enjoying you during Live at 9, the bulletin that you started, you decided to quit and take on the other bigger responsibility of you being a leader at the institute. When you were driving your car, you know NBS put a Uganda flag up there. You can see it as far as Kulambira or wherever. When you look at that flag, what comes into your mind?
So these are two different questions. Let me just talk about the living at such stage.
The decision making.
You see, there's the life is a graph, right? In our careers, we climb. When you hit your climax, there are two things that will happen. You will stay there, and you don't grow any further, or your curve will start coming down. What's the lesson? When you feel you are at your climax, I usually use it as my base to start again. So you know how you hit your climax? Just level that and make it your base, so that you then start to go up.
From when you reach your climax, don't settle down.
No, because usually we then settle down there and get comfortable in our spaces, right? At our climax. And that's why most people stay there. No. But I have learned that at my climax is what I just have to use it as a level.
For you to go to another step.
For me to use it to propel myself to go back, to go up. And that is through, let me put it in a language I understand best. Kweyubula. You have to evolve. Evolve. Keep evolving Don't be comfortable when you get to that level. But that also comes with risk. Because when you are at your top, usually you're earning more. Everyone refers to you. But at that moment, you then begin to relax because you're the best.
You become comfortable.
You become comfortable in your space.
The salary is really sustainable.
It's good, sustainable. You're in your space. Everyone knows about you.
The children are able to go to school.
At the end of it all, your bar starts to go down.
And others are developing.
So what I usually do is then I evolve by taking risks. I jump.
No matter
I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going. And I'm a risk taker. I take risks. When I feel that I have hit my climax, I don't step. I was telling the team at the institute, the moment I get to that time when I feel I've hit my climax, I will leave.
No matter who you're hurting.
I will leave. Because that tells me my time is up here.
Where is the thin line between being ambitious and selfish?
When you are ambitious, you want to get new challenges. You want to go deeper. I mean, at the time when I was leaving NBS, I looked down. I'm like, okay, what haven't I done? I've been in the trenches of news reporting. I have anchored news. I have won 48 awards with my name written on them. I have been there. What more am I going to do? Yes, I'm still up there. I find so many people on the streets who tell me, we used to love your presence on camera, on TV, on news. We'll go back to wait for that 9 o'clock bulletin to see you. And I keep telling them my time was done. I had to leave and start. Even with this, that, the institute is now growing, it's 5 years. But I've told them I am leaving in the next 5 years.
And by the way, you went back to school. Now you're doing a PhD at the Uganda Christian University.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
It's part of evolving. I have to grow. And one of the signs of growth is going back to add something onto your life.
And your true definition of this podcast, Mr. Serwanjja, because we believe in transforming followers into leaders and leaders into agents of change. And allow me say this, that you're transforming so many followers into leaders, and I'm one of them.
Wow.
And now you're elevating from leadership into becoming an agent of change. When I read your LinkedIn post about your PhD, I was so... Actually, it's from that I called you for a conversation. And you remind me of the two armies that I read in a book. I don't remember the title, but the guy was trying to explain the two armies that we should watch out for in terms of leadership. There is an army of a sheep led by a lion. And I see you being that kind of a leader. And there is an army of lions led by a sheep. That army cannot go anywhere. If sheep keep on following every flock they find, if it's cattle, they will go. If it's goats, they will go. Meaning for them, they cannot lead themselves. But you, being an army of sheep led by a lion, you're multiplying yourself into them. And eventually, they are also going to become lions.
You know one thing, Simon? We all work for organizations and companies. We report at 8, leave at 5.
Not in a newsroom.
Or even in the newsroom, sometimes we report at 8, leave at 9 p.m.
Yes.
You've given all your time to your employer. What time do you have for
yourself?
To grow yourself. The employer is benefiting. But are you benefiting? You can't be in the newsroom every day and all you do is writing scripts.
True.
What have you added to yourself? You as a person. Yes, you've worked for your employer, but you as a person, what skill set? And I'm talking about skill set. What can you do? I mean, you're in a newsroom. You have exposure. There are cameras. There's edit suites. There's everything. There are experts in that space.
True.
But you've limited yourself to writing scripts.
And,
So, yes, you're giving value to your employer, but what value have you got? And so, you have to learn something from that environment that even when you leave, it stays with you.
True.
You know what I mean?
True.
If you're a reporter, learn how to use a camera.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make you any less of a reporter.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how do you manipulate a camera. Where do you switch it up from? How do you do color balancing?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do audio balancing? How do you even set it up on a
Mm-hmm.
tripod?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen very many reporters who don't want even to carry tripod bags.
You know?
You see a cameraman is holding a camera, lights, is holding a
Everything,
tripod.
and
You're holding
with
your bag
script.
and your script and your ties and your
very
stilettos. You think you're doing something for yourself, but it's a disadvantage to you.
That's too detrimental to yourself.
In my view, I strongly argue that you have to be in position to improve yourself. Learn how to do video editing.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how to do basic sound editing. I was groomed at NTV where Williams Kato you'd come, I was a news anchor, but would say, Serwanjja Jamama Suti go. Get a camera,
What
go
a
to the
tripod.
field. You go, shoot, come back from the field, script, voice, edit your voice, come and do your edits, open up Premiere Pro, Final Cut. At the time, NTV were using Final Cut. Edit your own script, edit your own video, upload it onto the server, and as you're uploading it, the makeup artist is waiting for you. Before you know it, the clock on air is ticking, and you have to look good for the camera.
Mr. Serwanjja,
So
first give me 5. I'm going to tell you a story.
So you have to, and that has stayed with me, whether I'm on set or not. I cannot sleep hungry. I would rather get that camera and go and shoot birthday parties,
You know?
and
there are
shoot
so
shoot
many.
weddings, and come and edit, and I get something out of it. It's a skill set, and I got it from not just reporting or looking good for the cameras, but I also managed to get behind the cameras and understand how this work is done. And so for me, my advice to young people, or even people who are out there, how do you use the environment around you to grow you
elevate yourself to
beyond
another
just
level.
what you do?
True.
What can you learn from yourself? I left NTV. I went to NBS. At that time, NBS wanted an all-rounder.
True.
I had it all.
True.
International media right now is looking for a shoot edit journalist. Like you go to the field, film, cut, edit, send the footage,
You know?
send the script, voice it. So you have to be versatile. How can you add to yourself that in the market you have a slight advantage over you? When you look at and the Olympics have taught us, you remember the 100-meter competition, it was by 0.005 seconds that
Between
the
America
and Jamaica.
Jamaica, yes.
0.005.
It was so contagious.
Yeah, but you see, what does that teach us? Even if by a microsecond, it gives you that edge. So you have to consistently grow yourself that you have a 0.05 microsecond ahead of someone. The world is becoming competitive.
True,
You
true.
cannot just stay with what you have. You must have that 0.005 edge that puts you ahead
To another level.
in the market.
You know, Mr. Serwanjja, honestly speaking, when I hear you speak like that, memories have just come back from how I started this game. I don't see any difference from how you did it. Honestly speaking, I think it is just passion beyond passion. Passion beyond passion, because we were beaten by rain. I did the story and I deliberately put it on my YouTube just for future reference. I went to the field. I pitched the story in the morning. I went to the field. I was the cameraman. I was the reporter. I came back. I edited the Luganda version. I voiced it. I went and anchored. I came back. I did the English version, and it was aired. And I wasn't grumbling. I was very okay. Well,
And no one can ever steal that away from you. It's a skill set.
that's true. Let's speak about family. I know you're a great father and a great husband. Husband is for the wife and fatherhood is for the children. balancing them sometimes is quite hard. How would you do it?
I have a very supportive wife who fills in those gaps. But even in my busiest of schedules, family is important. I try to be a father as much as I can. Every single second I get, I have to be there. I have to be present in my children's lives.
Is your family involved in the risk assessment when you're going to do an investigative report?
Of course, you think through.
What does your wife tell you?
Of course, what she knows is she can't stop me from doing what I do. She can advise, but she cannot say, "Oh, I don't want you to leave this house." No.
If you are assessing,
and that's why she's supporting. She's supportive on all fronts. She can advise, but eventually I make the decision. But no stories is worth our lives.
How do you watch aging?
Aging.
Yeah.
That's another one. It's interesting. I think that it's important for us to prepare for that time of, like, when the limelight is gone, when we have grown old, to be in position to have invested enough that we will be reaping from what we are investing now, and not be burdens to our children because we paid for them school fees, that we demand for them to put food on our tables. I think that's wrong. I think it's important for all of us as parents to start planning for our future without having our children in mind that they'll be there for us.
How would you watch fame? Believe you me, you're famous.
I think it's a fallacy. Fame comes from the word famous for what we do. I don't allow fame to get to me because I'm simply human. I eat. I'm just human. I just happen to be on TV. Just
You're
doing
not
journalism.
consumed by the excitement that comes along with
Never.
it. When you go on the street and they're like, "Oh, Solomon Serwanjja," people come with all that excitement.
I give them hugs. I talk to them. Some time back, a guy downtown just sliced for me a pineapple, and he told me, "Oyogera oluzungu sirumanyi naye nkwagala enanasi hiyo," and I ate it.
How did that make you feel?
It just makes me so humble. And all of us who are in the limelight need to be reminded that it's people celebrating us. We're not any different from them.
How would you deal with the temptation of women?
That's a hard one. I mean, we're all tempted, right? We all go through these temptations, but how do you deal with them? I mean, even the greatest man who ever walked this earth has been tempted. That is Jesus. I mean, tempted. He's hungry, you give him bread. This guy tells him, "I'll give you the world if you just worship." And he knows really, this guy worships God. He is the Son of God, for heaven's sake. But he says, "You know what? I'll give you the world if you just bow down and worship."
What is your response?
All of us are tempted. The way we handle our temptations is what varies. Even at our weakest points, we all have those weakest points in our lives. But I think it's important to go back to God to give us strength to go through. When you look at the Lord's Prayer, there's a reason as to why this guy prays to say, "Lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil."
You can imagine, lead us not to. Like, please do not tempt us, but deliver us. Give us that strength to deliver. We all get tempted. We ask for God's grace. Even the strongest of men are tempted.
And it's always good when you acknowledge that you are weak. You ask him to.
I am weak in this point, and
you.
all of us men, we have our own weaknesses.
You haven't interviewed the president?
No.
What would be your hard question if you had an interview with the president?
I am actually going to be having him on our Twitter space very soon. I think we are in the final stages of concluding that. I think it's going to be a great one.
What would be your first hard question?
Can he reimagine a Uganda without him?
That's your first hard question.
I think I would ask him, when you die, when you live or when you die, what would you love Uganda to look like when you're not here? And how have you prepared for that? I think all of us as a country, we're discussing the post-Museveni era, mindful of our history. And we're all asking, have we grown systems to support us through that transition? And I think it's all of us our responsibility to answer that question. How do we imagine a Uganda without Museveni? And how do we strengthen our democracy for it not to slide back into bloodshed?
Nice one. Would like you to look into this camera and share your words of wisdom to those that are following you and what you want to be remembered for.
I don't know. That's a hard one. But I think all of us have a cause. We all want a better society. We all want a better country. But we all have a responsibility to make a contribution to that in our different little spaces. Whether you're a doctor, what is it that you want to add to make this country a better place? Whether you're a cameraman, whether you're a producer, whether you are an artist, whether you're a journalist, whether you're an engineer, a teacher. I believe that we all have a responsibility, moral responsibility, to do something to create a better country that we all want. We absolutely cannot only focus on government. I think in our very little spaces, we can do something to build a better Uganda, to demand for better services, to also serve the country better. And I think that when we all realize that we have a contribution to make and to do it, then we can begin to do those things that we do best so that we can make a contribution to a better Uganda. What do I want to be remembered for? Maybe this clip to be played when I am not here anymore. I think I want to be remembered as someone who was very passionate about journalism and someone who was very passionate about investigative journalism, someone who believed a lot in investigative journalism and its impact in society. I want to be remembered as someone who made a contribution to strengthening the field of investigative journalism through practice and through training and through research. Yeah, when I'm long gone, maybe. Yeah, I want to have made that contribution to inspire the next Solomon Serwanjja or Anas Anas or Alan Namu, or that the field of investigative journalism stays alive even when all of us have since gone.
Meanwhile, we've come to the end of this conversation. I would like to thank you so much for giving me this time to have a conversation.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed. Friends, that is it for this amazing conversation. Thank you so much for being part of it right from the genesis up to now that I'm going to be walking out of this place. May the good Lord of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob be with you until we meet in another video. But for now, it's a bye-bye.